Hello Gaudi class and welcome to today's history lesson. Just for fun, I thought I'd pop up in the other corner. Today, we're going to be learning about Caroline Herschel. And if you think that name sounds a bit familiar, you might think back to yesterday's lesson where we were learning about William Herschel. And yes, they are related. Can you guess how they might be related? Caroline Herschel was born in Germany in 1750 on the 16th of March. And she trained as a singer, so she was also interested in music. She then moved to England when she was 22 years old in 1772 to keep house for William, so to look after his house, to cook and clean for him, and perform in his concerts. As a child, she'd suffered from smallpox, which is a disease, and typhus, leaving her scarred and her growth stunted, which means she never grew very tall. In fact, she never grew more than 4'3". So you might want to measure how you are and see how tall you are and see whether or not you are taller or shorter than Caroline Herschel. She was neglected by her parents, which means they didn't pay her much attention. She didn't learn to read or write until she moved to England when she was 22. And then William, who was her brother, did you guess that, looked after her and he tutored her, he taught her to read and write. She became a strong mathematician and she began to help him with his astronomical work. She would record his observations, so he'd look out the window through his telescope and she'd write down what they saw. And so she would record his observations of the night sky and work out complex mathematical calculations with his data. So that enabled them to work out how far away they thought the star might be or what they were seeing. So between them, they compiled 2,500 new nebulae, and nebulas are balls of gas and dust in the sky, and star clusters, that's groups of stars together into a list. Star is a ball of fire. This was eventually enlarged, there were so many of them, and it was renamed the New General Catalogue. So they took the first letters, the NGC, and many things that weren't in the sky, that weren't stars, sorry, were identified by their NGC number. So they started from 1, so you can think how many they got by the time they got to what we're going to look at today. So Caroline is responsible for discovering and documenting many comets. Now, and nebula. So I've just explained to you what a nebula is. A nebula is a ball of gas and dust that travels through space. And a comet is like a huge, enormous frozen lump of rocks and gas and dust that actually goes around the sun. So comets orbit the sun. And if you want to imagine, they're about the size of a town, so about the size of Slough. One comet is the size of Slough, this frozen Slough going through space around the sun. How big it is. So on February the 26th, 1783, she discovered an open cluster known today as NGC 2360. But that was one of her most famous discoveries. She went on to discover 14 new nebulae that had never been seen before, including NGC 205, and which was a companion to the Andromeda galaxy, and that's incredibly famous. So on the right here, we have the Andromeda galaxy. On August the 1st, 1786, Caroline identified an object travelling slowly through the night sky. She observed it again the next night and immediately alerted other astronomers by mail to announce her discovery. Caroline had become the first woman to discover a comet. So I've just told you that's like a small frozen town orbiting the sun. In 1787, King George III officially employed Caroline as William's assistant, providing her with a modest salary. That means he didn't pay her very much, but he did pay her, and making her the first woman paid for scientific services. So she was the first female paid scientist. Following William's death in 1822, Caroline returned home to Germany and continued to work on their catalogue of nebulae. So she was the first female astronomer to earn a salary and become an honorary member of the Royal Astronomical Society. Now, this is an interesting one. She was an honorary member, which means she wasn't actually allowed to join the society because in those days, women were not allowed. But because of all the work she did with William, she was an honorary member. So she was a member of the society, but she was never allowed to go to their meetings or publish anything in their works. Sad, but true. In 1828, the Royal Astronomical Society awarded Caroline the gold medal of the society. And this is what it looked like on both sides. Caroline Herschel died on the 9th of January, 1848. She was nearly 98 years old. So she'd lived a very good and long life and died as a very, very old lady. So the inscription, the writing on her tombstone says, "The eyes of her who is glorified here below turn to the starry heavens." I paused in the wrong place. I'll say that again. "The eyes of her who is glorified here below turn to the starry heavens." That basically means she spent her life looking out at the stars and the sky. So what you're going to do is you are going to pretend to be a reporter. I think you should pretend to be a YouTuber, or a teacher like me, and you can have your own YouTube video. So what you're going to do is you're going to go back through the presentation and you're not going to look at some of the information about Caroline Herschel, or you can Google extra information on her if you would like to. And what you're going to do is you're going to you're going to record yourself talking about her life. So I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to model one for you. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and I'm here today to tell you all about Caroline Herschel. Some amazing facts about Caroline. She was born in She was born in 1722, and when she was 22 years old, she moved to England to be with her brother, William Herschel. They spent all their days looking out at the night sky. They probably spent their nights looking out at the night sky, and they catalogued all that they could see, including nebulae, which are great big balls of gas and dust, and comets, which are great big frozen rocks and dust that travel around the sun. She was the first person to ever be paid. She was the first woman to ever be paid to be a scientist. And she died when she was nearly 98 years old. So I want to see your enthusiasm. I want to hear some facts. It might just be one or two facts. You might want to tell me a load of facts. You can make mistakes just like I did. It's absolutely fine. It doesn't have to be perfect, and you don't have to read it off of a piece of paper. Totally up to you. If you're very lucky, maybe the person who's videoing you could have a paper by them and you could read what they're saying. But try to make it sound like you're talking, not like you're reading. There's a big difference, and you can hear it when you watch the Gaudi videos. You can see when Mrs Gabella and I are reading off the screen, and you can hear when we're talking directly to you. So try and make it one where we're talking directly to you. And I'm really looking forward to this task because I'm going to get to see and hear you, not just your work. So please, please upload those to Tapestry for me, and I shall see you for our next lesson.